Awesome. Hey, everybody, it's Coach Bronson here. And today I have Dr. Eric Westman on. We're going to talk about some really good stuff. If you don't know Dr. Westman, he's been doing this keto thing for a while. He's written some books about it. He's got some really great programs, and he speaks and talks all over the place. But before we get into that, I want to just remind you guys to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions about what we're talking about, you can always put comments into the individual videos. Make sure you click the bell so you're notified every time I come out with a new video. I do a new video every Tuesday live, and then I come out with something else usually later on in the week. The most important part of this, though, is if you can do me a favor and just share this video with somebody that you care about, somebody who's trying to make a change and improve the quality of life, because the more we can share, the more people's lives we can change, and the better off we'll all be. So, Dr. Westman, thank you very much for being on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We're going to talk. So you've got a lot of stuff we could talk about. I was looking at your website. You've got so much experience and so much good knowledge to put out there. I was thinking about specific things we could talk about, and I think the most beneficial, particularly for my vein of where I usually kind of spend my time, is helping people understand the impact of what they eat and what they do on improving their quality of life. A lot of people think about, hey, I need to lose fat, but the idea of fat loss is really like the easiest go-to thing that people target when they're really having issues with not being able to live the life that they want to live. So if we can focus it's more of a symptom than it is the problem. We can fix the metabolic issues. If we can fix their body's functioning, the fat will kind of take care of itself. So I like to kind of focus on the other things a little bit. So if we could, there's two things particularly. If we let's talk about protein for a minute. And I know there's two things that I hear all the time about protein. One is that protein is going to kick you out of ketosis. And then two, that if you can't eat too much, because if you eat too much of anything, because total calories matter, that if you eat too much, you could gain fat as well. Could you kind of touch on that a little bit?
Well, sure. I got into the whole keto diet because two of my patients did a diet that made them, they lost 50 pounds on their own. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, if it's that easy, you don't even need doctors to help people. And it turns out that's the same with diabetes. You change the food, the diabetes goes away. And so we got into it looking at the safety of it, because everyone thought that eating a keto kind of lifestyle or low carb, high fat, LCHF, it used to be called Atkins, it used to be called a lot of different names, but essentially it's prioritizing protein as your nutrition. That's the bottom line. And it's gotten kind of distorted into this term keto that makes people think more of drinking ketones and worrying about ketones, measuring ketones in the blood and the urine, or adding fats and oils and all that. And no, but proper nutrition starts with protein. And that's the thing that really is basic to any nutritional program. And I'm afraid there are people trying to hawk their products that have protein, or that, have ketones or fats and oils and things that has taken away the basic nutritional needs of our body, which is protein. So protein comes first. I think that's the solid nutritional science that nobody talks about much.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because everybody thinks keto is a high fat diet. It's high fat, moderate protein, and low carbs. And I try to tell people all the time, like, hey, if you can go higher protein. It doesn't have to be super high protein. We can maybe talk about PSMF and where that kind of falls into the gamut of all the different types of things. But getting adequate protein is definitely something that I don't think enough people do.
Yeah, well, so now that the protein comes first, really, that and we still think, because the data, clinical trials on long-term fasting are still scant. I mean, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence, and clearly not eating leads to weight loss. I mean, that just watch one of these reality TV shows,
right?
And they lose a pound a day, but that's not healthy. So yeah, protein every day. And how much is really fascinating, because I edited a textbook that doctors use to take the obesity medicine exam. You can actually take special training and become certified, board certified in obesity medicine. And, we teach a certain approach, a guideline for how much someone needs for a day, but that's really boiling it down to an average. And there's a wide range of protein requirement and intake depending on your size, your age, your exercise ability and tolerance, and just activity levels.
Right.
So I'm reassured that once you get sugar out of the mix, so you learned you're doing low carb or keto, and you've learned, okay, I really should minimize the sugar, and starches turn to sugar, so you have to minimize the starches too. Then protein comes first. And how much? I'm reassured that the studies where they put people on research wards and only let them eat food, they didn't monitor anything. The body itself gravitates toward protein in different amounts, and probably in sufficient amounts if you just let your body eat and don't put your brain into it too much, right?
Right.
So I'm constantly kind of retooling the mindset of my patients today, where they come in learning rules on the internet that really don't apply to individual variability.
Mhm.
And then you're trying to lose weight on a low carb diet. And so I'm a physician, I'm a doctor trained in prescription strength diets. I may have to violate these rules you've been taught on the internet, and dietitians follow these rules because they're not trained to be doctors. They can't prescribe drugs. They're dietitians. So they can't prescribe these super low calorie diets that doctors are taught in, because they don't have the training in it. And instead of them saying, oh, no, you can't do that, it should be, oh, no, you have to do that in the context of a program that knows what they're doing, which is really obesity medicine. So I guess getting back to your question, there's a range of protein. And I've with monitoring, people come in, they've had me talk to them, a history and physical and lab tests. I will go below what you probably think is a good protein level, because we're trying to get them to lose their body fat as the first thing to do. So when you're balancing losing body fat with muscle mass and caloric restriction, these are things that get individualized in the physician's office. And then when you add in medication for weight loss, it really distorts the picture, because I've had some people put on medication for weight loss. They come in, I'm not even hungry. I'm not eating anything. And then you get into you need some protein for the healthiest rate of weight loss. And, but I still don't know how much protein.
Right.
And,
so how do you gauge that when someone's, you're trying to manage that for somebody? How do you gauge if they're getting enough or not?
Yeah, well, it's to me, it's more of an art than a science. So if I bring a milligram or gram per kilogram of, you're supposed to have this much protein, what can happen is people come in using these apps, and the apps tell them you haven't had enough protein today. And so the app drives someone to eat more when they weren't hungry in the first place. So in the context of a well-formulated low carb keto diet, I find that people can measure their own intake of protein pretty well. And the body will figure it out without measuring the gram per day. And, if you are trying to do something special, like you're at the gym and you want to maximize protein, you may want to add in more and be more conscious and calculate. But in the general population that I see, most are not doing much exercise at all. They have arthritis pains, or they just have been out of condition for a long time, that the body will figure out how much, and on its own, if you just take the bad foods out of the equation.
How do you find with changing somebody's diet, like there's, particularly when we talk about protein intake, the body's ability to absorb and utilize? So you could say, hey, I'm going to prescribe that you get, 1 gram per kilogram of lean mass, or whatever formulation you want to use, but they're not really actually using all of that, right? I mean, maybe is there times you need to say, hey, we're not seeing the results we want, you need a little bit more because maybe you're not getting all the protein, or how does that work?
Well, be honest, the sophistication of my measurements is not great in the clinic that I'm in. So I'm not doing DEXA scans or doing really high level protein measurement, body composition measurement. I use a bioimpedance machine that is, which is okay, but not great. And I go more on function. How strong are you? Are you able to do? And coming from the clinical setting, the medical weight loss world, we watch the surgeons in the surgical weight loss world take out normal intestines and make it so that the absorption of nutrients is totally distorted. The timing is off. There's no synchrony of the gallbladder anymore and all that. And yet people absorb and gain weight after having weight loss surgery. So in the context of a relatively normal person who has not had stomach surgery before, I don't worry too much about the absorption and the quality of protein. And I'm not a vitamin, I'm not a supplement guy. I don't have products that are trying to pitch the best protein supplement absorbable. And I've watched vitamin makers say that theirs is the best, even though there are 100 kinds of vitamins.
Right.
If someone has not had weight loss surgery, because that distorts the absorption, I don't really worry too much that someone's not able to absorb protein.
Right, because it's a big debate, right? It's really important to a lot of people. They've got to go grass-fed, grass-finished. They got to get the best of the best every time. They can't just go to the store and get some meat that's on sale and eat that, because it'll make a difference in their progress.
So I'm a bit skeptical of that.
Yeah.
I say that I'm in a position in the academic world that I need a study in intact humans to not just what's a great idea, it actually has to have some data behind it. And so someone might feel better and there's a perceived notion or the perception you're feeling better because you're getting the higher quality types of foods. In my practice, for treating obesity and type 2 diabetes, I've had people just eat off the dollar menu at McDonald's. And they're successful because the underlying notion of keeping the carbs super low works so well. So I'm kind of one of these old timer low carbers who are raising the skeptical eye of these zealotous folks who say you must have grass-fed beef or you might as well have Snickers bars. That's not true. I think there's many different ways of doing a healthy keto diet, and if you have the ability to get grass-fed beef and locally grown food, I mean you're going to be using your nutritional intake to help change the environment of our nutrition, of our food.
Yeah.
That's really important. But I have to meet people who come to me in my clinic where they are. And if all they do is eat at fast food, these are the tools I have. I will teach them how to be successful.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Could you be at a PhD level with very sophisticated tools saying that the grass-fed beef person is doing better than the McDonald's person? I'd love to do that study, because I'll bet any sort of differences that show up in the intact human are going to be very small.
Yeah, right. Because the bigger win is cutting out the carbs, cutting out the processed food, cutting out the seed oil, and that kind of stuff. That's all way much bigger of an impact than which meat you're going to use.
Yeah, well, I'm in that position of show me the data, and there's a lot of what kind of brought keto to the forefront is the groupings, kind of like people didn't even know they were all in the same groups, like the obesity group, the ketogenic diet for epilepsy group, the keto drink my MCT and ACVs. I mean, in fact, I came back from teaching overseas, and I heard about a name of a very prominent YouTuber in keto for the first time from the group overseas. And I'd come back and call the doctor and say, "Hey, did you know there's this whole world of research?" And all? And he said, "No." So it's fascinating how this has all come together, but now there is an annual meeting called the Metabolic Health Summit
Summit,
that
yeah.
is bringing together these groups to it's a lot of basic science, but also clinical science, with the idea of what can nutritional ketosis do,
Okay.
what can lowering carbs do, and the whole idea of super clean food, I think, came from the paleo movement, paleo primal world, that was able to market certain products, and those are some of the success stories of the businesses that have done really well in that space, that have been
Right.
bought out. And then speaking of businesses, the Virta Health company out of Silicon Valley has the diabetes treatment platform, where they've shown in clinical trials they can reverse type 2 diabetes. And I don't think they asked anyone to have grass-fed beef, or they certainly
Okay.
weren't able to get everyone to have that
Sure.
in the program, because it was done all over the country.
Okay. Yeah, it's just amazing. I think I like to tell people that the ketogenic diet is a win because it's addition by subtracting. You're taking things out, which is actually adding to your body's ability to function the way it's supposed to function. Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning, one of the things that I hear all the time. So I purposefully join different groups on social media, Reddit and Facebook and all over the place, and just because I want to hear what people are asking and kind of keep my finger on the pulse of the things that people are dealing with. And almost every day I see somebody mention to watch your protein intake because it's going to kick you out of ketosis. How does that work? Is that really a thing or not?
Yes, but it's a minor thing. So that I'm kind of shocked. Well, that's too strong a word, but I'm seeing people teach by the extremes rather than from the center. And so if you learn keto and you learn, oh, you have to have fats, and it start with fats, and you put fat in your coffee, and you put fat on your steak and all that, then and you can't have protein and all that. Well, that's too extreme. So remember, protein comes first. And the worry about being, quote, knocked out of ketosis, the way I deal with that is I don't even have my patients measure for ketones. So they're not going to know.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I'm 100% behind that.
We will say, turn off the keto meter, don't even check, because if the hunger is gone, you're losing weight, your clothes size is going down, that means it's working. I've even had people concerned because everything's working except they're not in ketosis. No, so that's the whole, the point isn't getting into ketosis. The point is fat burning, achieving not a keto number in the blood, but the metabolic benefits of not eating the carbohydrates and having ketones around, and having a low insulin level in the blood. That's really important too. So I guess back to your point, it's really hard to eat too much protein unless if you're eating real foods. Now, if you're going to the shakes and the collagen products that I don't even know all these because I don't teach them. I teach with real foods. I suppose you could overdo protein if you're using these supplements that I see so many people thinking that's what keto is. No, that's not what keto is. The version for obesity and diabetes treatment. Now, what's fascinating, there's a whole sidebar now of people who are elite athletes doing keto. And, if you're to that level, I refer people directly to those teachers because that's not the situation I've been in. Most people I see are deconditioned, their muscles are weak, they're not doing any exercise at all. And then I help people lose 50 pounds, 100 pounds, and people come back saying, hey, I'm exercising. And I don't even have to say do it, because once you get that momentum, people find the activity they like to do on their own. And it could be as simple as getting down on the floor and playing with their grandkids.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In a clinic like mine, motivation can be varied, and absolutely, the old saying, use it or lose it. You want to be active, you want to be loose, you want to be you don't have to do formal exercise, but
Mhm.
whether it's walking, biking. Um, I don't think you have to go to the gym for that. I'm actually kind of personally enchanted with yoga because it seems to be the weight lifting technique of the ages, because your own body is the weight,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
matching the weights you use with the body you were given,
Mhm.
without having to purchase gym equipment and all that. But fortunately, there are a lot of ways to do it, and the folks that I see wanting to, I joke that I'm getting people in shape for their retirement because they worried about everyone else in their lives neglecting
Yep,
themselves, and it's
absolutely.
over. No, we'll get you in shape, and you'll get to do the things you often never thought you could do. And that's what's really exciting about the job I have. I wanted to help people feel better, and I get to do that. The twist and turn that I got down is that I do it by changing the food, which goes against everything people have been taught.
Wait, you don't
So
prescribe a ton of medicine to solve people's problems? What?
yeah, I fell out of that world,
Yeah.
and that's our current medical system. I'm afraid is really teaching doctors how to prescribe medicines, and that happens here at Duke University. I'm at Duke, and our internal medicine residents come out learning how to prescribe medicines, and they don't know much about nutrition unless they've come through our clinic,
Right.
and they come out knowing that protein comes first.
Good,
And
good.
then you can run your body on sugar or fat. That's your choice. I mean,
Yep.
sugar means starches, and vegetables being, the source of starches that I would want you to stay to if at all possible. But so, yeah, so the protein comes first, and I don't think you can have too much protein unless you're really
Yeah.
trying hard
Yeah.
to change it, to overconsume.
To overconsume. What is so along with the ketosis fear that people have with protein, I think some of that comes with not really understanding. And this is going back. It surprises me sometimes that I still hear this word as people being afraid of protein, and that is gluconeogenesis. And the understanding that gluconeogenesis is a process, and this is something that only in the past year or so, year and a half, I've really been kind of digging into trying to understand it better, because I just never understood why so many people are scared of this word. And understanding that it's not just protein, it's more of an umbrella process that can use multiple different substances to create glucose. Could you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I'm afraid I may have contributed a little bit to the fear.
No.
And the first books that I wrote with Jimmy Moore, called Keto Clarity, it's kind of a simplification. We have that in there, and I've learned that not everyone needs to be keto. My latest book has 3 different categories of carb intake, like time, books going back time immemorial.
Mhm.
So different levels of carbs and be healthy. But if you're trying to really use therapeutic ketosis to treat a medical condition, we don't have any studies yet to say that we know that it's going to be helpful for you to be at a ketone level of 1.5 all day, of the blood ketones. So the worry about knocking out of ketosis and all that, I think is again, this kind of reaction to, well, what should I eat? Well, I don't know, less protein, more fat. Well, my guidance is a lot more simple,
Mhm.
because I don't want people worrying so much about macros and the protein fat ratios. That's important if you have epilepsy and you're treating with the keto diet. It's important
Mhm.
to be in ketosis all day long. I think most people will be very healthy if you can adapt, go into ketosis and out of ketosis, to have that flexibility. And I think you can regain that as long as you've stayed away from carbs for a long time, fix that underlying insulin
Yeah,
resistance.
yeah. And that's a good key, right? We're talking about fixing your metabolic function. We're not talking specifically, yes, weight loss is something that we want people to have. Yes, that's something that a lot of people start with. They start the whole process because, hey, I need to lose weight. But really, the way to do that is to fix your engine's broken. Let's fix your engine, and we can take care of all the other stuff.
Yeah, and having watched a lot of people now achieve goals that often they never thought they could. I remember this one 70-ish-year-old woman who got back to her high school weight that she, never dreamed would happen. And the equation, well, the first thing I say is, I'm not going to lock you up in a keto prison. You can eat carbs. People, the eyes, you might never have fruit again. No, I'm not going to lock you up. But if you go back to eating the way you were that got you here, you're going to end up here. It's just a matter of time. So the way people learn what their bodies can tolerate. And, I have a pastry every now and then, but I don't have it every day. I do have to be carb conscious and aware personally. Although I didn't have a massive weight loss story like a lot of doctors do. Remember, I got into this because of 2 patients who was in front of me, and because of the research that we wanted to start to look at the safety of it. It wasn't my own personal need to be keto, but I just enjoyed a lifestyle relatively free of hunger, and then having, ribs, slow cooked ribs. And, I gravitate toward delicious meat and brisket and things like that. So if you like that style of food, it's you can be healthy and still eat great foods and not worry so much about hunger. And then, I think what we're seeing, I hope, is that there's kind of an early adopter sort of mentality of folks who get into keto, and they're super obsessed about numbers and all that. And I hope there'll be another kind of wave that comes through of, no, you can be more relaxed about it. And I find what I've been teaching and what I've studied and published papers on at Duke is now called lazy, dirty keto.
Right.
Because it's, almost like in a pejorative bad way. And I'm like, no, it's lazy because you don't have to measure much. It's like, people are writing you checks and you're on the beach. That's not lazy. That's smart. That's lucky. You're a businessman. You're getting money that way. That it's being more. You don't have to monitor all these things. And then dirty means that you don't have to have super clean food, like the eating at McDonald's or other fast food places. Now, do I think that's great all the time? And would I do it myself? No. But again, it's not me I'm talking about. I'm talking people who are in food deserts. There's no high-end grocery store within tens of miles. Well, meet them there and teach them low carb and keto. And yes, exercise will usually happen on its own once people start feeling better. But a gentle introduction to movement, I think, is really important for the long run. No question.
What is so if when we're talking about improving someone's metabolic health, we talk about the nutrition side of it. I like to look at it from the fitness side of it, because I really think that from an optimal lifestyle, you need both at some level. So you can't just do it all. You can do a lot with nutrition, you can do a lot with fitness, but really to get the best of your life, to live an optimal life, you need to have some kind of movement, you need to have some kind of physical ability, as well as fuel and the nutrients that you need. What that combination, right? We talk about eating protein, and that provides muscle protein synthesis, cellular repair, and helps with a bunch of things. What is the benefit of having muscle on your body from a metabolic perspective? I know there's some studies that have come out recently that talk about muscle mass and a better immune system. There's a bunch of things that are kind of like outside of what everybody thinks of. Well, I need muscle to be strong, obviously. What are some of the other benefits of actually having muscle?
Yeah, well, our studies didn't really address to that level of detail, but other people's research really shows that the type of body composition you have does matter in the long run for optimal health. And the metabolism and benefits of muscle have to do with bone health and also immunity. I'm a little less, I don't use that in kind of persuasion in my own office, because I'm like at the early stage of getting people started.
Sure.
kind of a routine. And so, but it's really important to maintain the muscle mass. And that's one of the things that obesity medicine doctors look at the surgical weight loss approach kind of in horror, because often these folks lose a lot of muscle mass and they come out, lean, but they don't look healthy. And so you don't want to lose weight that fast, and you want to, I think, keep an intact intestinal tract to be able to absorb everything you need. So that's why it's obesity medicine. We're the medical weight loss doctors, and keto is a subset of the techniques that an obesity medicine doctor uses. But absolutely, having muscle mass is really important for long-term health and activity. It needs the muscle to be for the support. But I kind of gravitate toward do something fun rather than slogging gym and all that. But what are the sayings we have? You can't outrun a bad diet,
right?
So if in fact it's classic for someone to come in saying, I'm doing everything for weight loss, and I'm exercising more, and I'm not losing weight. And I'll say, yeah, I know exercise doesn't help you lose weight. And but I'm exercising more and I'm not losing weight. And I'll say, yeah, I know exercise doesn't help you lose weight. You proved it in yourself. But I'm exercising because we've been taught so much that you have to exercise to lose weight, and it's so do it. No, you can't outrun a bad diet. But you're exactly right. The combination of a great diet and exercise, even just getting started toward the exercise, is really important.
Yeah. One of the things you kind of alluded to, you were talking about the different, I guess you could say, brands of keto. And then you just mentioned that keto is kind of a subset of all of the different tools that an obesity doctor has to use. What do you think, looking at, I don't know, for lack of a better word, keto as a market, keto as a space in the marketplace of health and fitness? It's still much maligned by a lot of people. It's still misunderstood by a lot of people. But what do you think the future holds for keto in general? Like, is it ever going to be mainstream?
Well, as you watch, some companies are being purchased by larger food companies, which is a good sign, I think, unless they change the whole texture of the foods. And sometimes that happens when you have the fantastic wine in the small winery, and then they scale it up, and the wine just changes totally, and it becomes less palatable to the one who liked it before. So Adapt Your Life is the company I founded several years ago to bring the knowledge and a few products to people that were truly keto. And they don't sell in a huge way or anything, but they're small and delicious. And one of the keys to doing a low carb bar is to make it a small bar. Kind of obvious, I suppose, but if you have smaller, you have just one bite of a regular candy bar, you probably have 5 carbs, right? So if you end up, there's always been this tension. I go way back to when the Atkins company was kind of the only one providing these sorts of products, and then the purist keto world got upset because they were teaching net carbs and we were using total carbs, and there's this debate and over time. But I think Atkins products generally are for a maintenance level rather than trying to be really in ketosis, and I think they're honest about that. The advent of new keto products that are kind of bizarre has me a little worried. There's this cupcake thing that you put oil in and you microwave it, and oh my God, it's delicious.
Wow.
But the problem is you can't just eat one, right? And this is the whole issue with over consuming nuts and over consuming cheese and all that. For most people, if you do that at the beginning, it's not going to work. So the keto right now has no standard for use in the foods that I'm aware of, and so you have to still train yourself to be careful about these products. Kind of the holy grail is the keto ice cream that doesn't exist yet, and but I'll be the first one to be promoting the keto ice cream. Right now, it's still you can't have much of that keto ice cream, you know, and it's still you can't have much of that quote keto bread, you
Right.
know, and make you mentioned the PMSF, the protein sparing modified fast. There's an egg white bread that you can make with protein powder. You know, my advice at first is just don't try to recreate all those things, and don't worry about that. The hunger will go away. You get satisfied. And then chaffles came along, a cheese and egg or almond flour with a little baking powder, and oh my goodness, you know, I'm just looking at my waffle maker right here. So you're able to. So I'm encouraged because and I think it will be sustained, because you can do keto or low carb, you can do it wrong or halfway and it still works, because the science behind it is so strong. It's lowering the carbs in the diet to lower the insulin in the blood, and insulin is the fattening hormone, puts you in carb burning mode if you have diabetes. So I kind of have a saying for someone who's just trying different things is try whatever that approach is for 2 weeks, you know, take it for a test drive. If it's not working, move on to something else. So don't be told, oh, just hang in there. And I've seen people gain weight on programs and then thinking they're doing a healthy lifestyle, not thinking that the food is causing the problem, because they were told that way of eating was healthy. A classic is the vegetarian or vegan approach, where someone has clearly gotten worse eating this way, but they don't see that it was the diet because they thought, you know, with blinders on, that it was a healthy thing. You know, but it wasn't for them personally. So it's been 20 years since our first study was published, and there have been changes. Yeah, it's excruciatingly slow at times, and yet there's been change. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Is there anything that you'd like to leave our viewers with? Any information about how to get started, how to get in touch with you, what kind of things you have going on? I know you have some like seminars happening like all over the place right now. It seems like there's
Sure. So my job still is at Duke University, seeing patients in Durham, North Carolina. You can call Duke and get an appointment, but you have to travel to see me. So to scale up and get information to more people, you can go to my website, ericwestmanmd.com, and that will give you links to different teaching materials based on if you want just a sheet of paper to follow, or a book to read, or a seminar online. We are opening up our Adapt Keto events around the country. We're starting in February. So next month, February 2022, doing the Southeast United States. We're doing Winchester, Virginia, February 5th, Raleigh, North Carolina, February 12th, and Atlanta on February 19th. You go to adaptyouracademy.com, look under in-person events. You can get a link to the Eventbrite ticket sales. These are great days. I mean, it's a Saturday, so people are just coming for the day. They're not traveling far, and the enthusiasm, you know, you get, you know, this stage, you get a couple hundred enthusiasts about keto in the same room. I mean, it's like spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure to put those links in the description of this video. Well, I appreciate you coming on very much, and we'll definitely want to see this again. And I think you're going to be at KetoCon this year, right?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
There's a possible schedule issue there. But
oh no. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that we're able to get these keto events going again.
Yeah.
Especially if someone is kind of new, they don't know, to just see people who are down the road from you, and especially if you feel like you're all alone where you are thinking this way, really important to connect.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Westman. I appreciate it.
So much.